So Arcane Season 2 finished up about a week ago as of the time I'm making this video, and I absolutely loved it. It is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece in my eyes, just like the first season with pretty much zero flaws. And I wanted to make a video about Jinx this season because she continues to be my favorite character in the show. And I am even hungrier for the next season or next show in this universe to come out if they decide to do that. But speaking of being hungry, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Factor. Factor is an online meal prepping and delivery service that allows you to eat stress-free with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. You can choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie. There's also more than 60 add-ons every week like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, and beverages to help you stay fueled and good all day. You can also try meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, truffle butter, broccolini, and asparagus. Factor meals eliminate the hassle of prepping, cooking, or cleaning up, which is something I think we all hate, and you can simply heat up your food and enjoy whatever you want to do. And if things ever get hectic in your life and you want to make a change, Factor is flexible, allowing you to change your order up every week, with plans ranging from 4 to 18 meals per week, or you can pause or reschedule your deliveries at any time. With Black Friday going on, things are cheaper than ever, and on top of that, you can get 50% off and free shipping on your first Factor box by simply clicking the link in the description or by scanning the QR code you see on the screen with your phone. Thank you to Factor for sponsoring today's video, and without further ado, let's get into talking about Jinx's amazing character work in Arcane Season 2. So the first scene we see with Jinx is the setup for what exactly she's dealing with in this season. After Season 1, where she accepted the identity of Jinx, there's no longer a divide between Jinx and Powder with her, at least at this point in the show. But remember during this scene when she sits in that chair after killing Silco? She doesn't exactly look happy about it, but she accepts that this is the case. This is her. Jinx is her identity. And that everyone around her will die or get hurt because of her. And she is an agent of chaos and destruction. And now she talks about how Silco and Vi were always both bossing her around, quote unquote, and it's now quiet in her life, and she doesn't know what to do now that she has no one like them in her eyes, someone that will love her for who she is unconditionally, and will validate her. And as Jinx walks alone through the Undercity with crime and conflict running rampant, someone drops in on her life both literally and figuratively. And this someone is Isha, or who I like to call Powder V2, which I will get to throughout the video, the parallels between the two, and why I think she is Powder V2, quote unquote. But as she makes this leap of faith, similar to how Powder did in Season 1, but instead of Vi saving Powder, it's Jinx saving Isha. And when Jinx saves her, she says, "You know that feeling, that buzzing behind your eyes? Because you know, in a moment, it could all be over. Best feeling in the world, kid." Which is reminiscent of how Silco would give his speech about what drowning can do to a man from Season 1. And as Isha looks over at the wanted poster with Jinx on it, she doesn't see how Jinx sees herself, saying, "Yup, that's me. You ever need to curse a sibling or a family or society? That's my card." And I like the dichotomy of the two perspectives they have. Jinx obviously sees herself as the identity she accepted in Season 1, but clearly she isn't happy with being a Jinx. And Isha sees Jinx as the girl she can't quite understand because, well, she's deaf, but she takes an interest in her because of that poster and the fact that Jinx just saved her life. And I absolutely love this scene where they meet for the first time. And in the next scene with her, she's surprising Savika in Silco's old room, and as Savika is talking to Silco's chair in anger, Jinx ironically says, "Geez, lady, you crazy?" because she's talking to an empty chair of a dead man, and Jinx and Savika connect over the death of Silco and how it's impacted both of their lives, but also the annoying things that he would have them do. They're both lost and don't really know what's next in their lives, and Savika says, "The hell are we supposed to do now?" which Jinx responds with, "Let it all burn," foreshadowing the fact that she kinda wants to die herself and forget about what Silco wanted to do with like his rebellious mindset, because she doesn't know what her purpose is in life anymore. And as Jinx is making a new arm for Savika, Vi comes into the Undercity dressed in an enforcer uniform, hunting her down, the same uniform that took their parents away from them. And I just love the emotion you can see on her face, the rage she feels as she contemplates killing her sister, but she just can't bring herself to do it, which foreshadows their fight later in episode 3 as well, because Vi also can't bring herself to kill Jinx later. And the scene that follows this up is fantastic. Jinx running away, crying in emotion after what she just saw with her sister, and as she gets jumped running away, I fucking love the line of dialogue where the rat guy says, "Never thought I'd catch you blubbering, wonder if Silco ever saw that." And she says twice, once when I met him and once when I killed him. He asks, "You?" in confusion, and Jinx says, "It's always me. Whether I'm the one pulling the pin or not, everyone who gets close to me dies." Another scene that touches upon the fact that Jinx doesn't like who she is, but she still accepts it and acts in her typical manner. And as Savika comes around the corner, Jinx throws her the new arm that she just made for her. And this scene just has so much sauce and subtle character stuff that's just easy to miss. Jinx makes Savika this arm and just inserts so much of her own chaotic personality into it, but she also puts in stuff that fits like Savika's personality as well, being the slot machine that does a bunch of wacky things, some of which isn't very useful in combat, like playing music for example, but it adds a gambling element to the fight that Savika comes to progressively enjoy. Because if you remember from the first season, Savika always was gambling. It's literally what she's doing right before Vi fights her. But after the fight, Jinx says, "You could have just let me eat it." And Savika says, "Haven't I done enough favors for you?" Touching on the fact that dying would be a release for Jinx, as well as paralleling the conversation they just had a bit earlier. But when Savika asks why Jinx made her the new arm, Jinx says, "It was something I could fix," calling back to the line earlier in the episode where she says, "Vi used to tell me I can fix anything." But there's also another layer to this line, and that's the fact that Savika is kind of like Vi in the sense that they both rely heavily on their fists and fighting to solve their problems. Neither of them think too strongly about things, and they can often walk into things blindly, like, and out of emotion without thinking much of it, which kind of makes them predictable and easy to counter. For example, Vi going to save Vander in season 1, getting put in a trap by Silco essentially, and Savika getting her arm taken off by Vi after she figures out her fighting style in the bar fight, which Jinx was watching. So what Jinx does is she implements the gambling, something which Savika not only likes, but in doing this, by nature of it being a slot machine, it makes Savika less predictable and therefore better off in combat. And it also adds tension to the fight scene since we don't know what will happen next. She could shoot fire out of her arm, or she could play music and just be sitting there. And the final layer to this line is the fact that Jinx is the reason Savika lost her arm in the first place. The other thing I like about this scene is how we see Jinx's wacky and chaotic personality on display in like full effect right here. The little gestures she makes and stuff that she's doing as Savika is fighting, and how Isha continues to take interest in her personality being displayed and the things that she's doing. She progressively throughout the season starts to look up to Jinx in a similar manner to how Powder looked up to Vi. And the final neat detail of this scene is the fact that the person Isha's trying to help is in trouble, and when Isha throws a mouse bomb, it actually works, unlike Powder, who always failed. And the scene ends with Jinx saying she's gonna finish off the rest of her family after seeing what Vi is doing. And in the next scene we see with Jinx and Vi, that's exactly what we see her doing. As she lures Vi into a place where Vander used to tell stories about the air running thin in the tunnels, obviously representative of the fact that Vi and the Enforcers are doing that exact thing right now, she mocks Vi over the fact that she's joined the Enforcers. And she tells Vi, "Stop me, because no matter what I do, I just can't seem to die." And by the end of the fight, when Vi is on top of Jinx, seeming willing to kill her, we get two important lines of dialogue from Jinx. One being her saying, "Go on, I'm ready, I'm glad it's you." And two, when Savika sets off Jinx's stuff and sends all the toxic gas up to the surface with a bunch of different colors in a very theatrical way. And Jinx says this wasn't how this was supposed to go. And this second line really makes me wonder, what exactly was Jinx's plan here if it wasn't supposed to go like this? Well, I actually think it has two possible plans. One, she was either going to kill Vi and then set off the bombs, and it would call back to the line in episode 2 where she says, "Yup, that's me, ever need to curse a sibling or a family or society, that's my card." And she would not only kill the rest of her family and continue to live up to that identity of Jinx, but also start even more problems with Piltover. But I think what Jinx more so wants, and what she thought was more likely to happen, was that Vi would beat her. So what she does is get in Vi's head to keep pushing her, so that Vi gets into that position where she will kill Jinx. And you can interpret Jinx saying, "I'm sorry" to Vi in the beginning of the fight, as her saying, "I'm sorry, I'm going to make you kill me, because I'm a force of nature that should be destroyed." And the interesting thing about this is that if Vi does kill her, Jinx would still be killing Vi, just not in a way that is literal. And the reasoning for Jinx wanting to die at the beginning of this season ties in nicely to how she develops by the end of this season, which I will expand upon later. And another thing about this sequence in this show, I just have to mention how fucking cool this whole sequence is. Like, my jaw was on the floor for like the entire time the music was playing to when it ended. Like, the writing, the music, the animation, like everything about this scene is just mwah, mwah. Episode 4 starts off with a time skip just like season 1, showing us a montage with the song Paint the Town Blue, showing the aftermath of Jinx releasing all the gas onto Topside. People started to idolize her as a hero in Zaun, and Enforcers are getting worse in the Undercity, with not only just Enforcers but also Ambessa's army. And we see that Jinx is taken in and is basically looking after Isha. She sees her as a little sister now, and why exactly this is something I will touch on later. But what I really like about this scene is the fact that Jinx says that the name Jinx, quote unquote, is dead. But why exactly does she say this? Well, it's because the name Jinx and the symbol of her is now being paraded around as someone to be idolized. And again, she is being looked at as a hero, and Isha represents this very clearly. She's got tattoos on her body like Jinx, gets her hair done like Jinx, she wants Jinx's pistol, because Isha only sees that part of Jinx that she loves and idolizes. But what the real Jinx sees is the person who only causes pain and destruction and is fated to continue doing so. After Isha saves some people from the oppression in Piltover, Savika comes into the room telling Jinx that someone did this, and that she should be out there rallying Zaun together like Silco wanted. And Jinx says that she's not interested interested, and Savika brings up how much Silco sacrificed to protect Jinx because he believed in her potential, and she just screams, well then he shouldn't have died. Which is ironic, and I love the interpretation I get out of this whole scene because Savika also mentions that Jinx can't just keep living out this fantasy. But what does she mean by fantasy? Well, she's talking about the fact that Jinx isn't going out in the city, basically. She's spending her time with Isha, who she basically sees as her little sister, and Jinx basically says, he shouldn't have died if he wanted my potential to flourish, in response to Savika. I love this line because she was the one who killed him. What she's essentially saying here is that she can't reach that potential, she can't be that icon because she still hates herself, she hates Jinx. And the only purpose she has in her life right now is taking care of and looking over Isha. And the next scene with her continues to push this as she's talking to Silco's chair saying, still giving me the silent treatment, huh? Calling back again to the line from the beginning of the show where she's lost because she has no guidance or validation from someone like Vi or Silco right now. And she says, me, a hero, how screwed up is this place? Because in a place as shitty as Zaun, she's being looked up to as an idol. But the ironic thing is that it's for a good reason that Jinx just won't accept. She did save the Undercity, she is giving people hope, but she just cannot accept this. She just spent the last few years of her life finally accepting that she is Jinx, accepting that identity, and now she's having trouble embracing that she can do good with her abilities, that she doesn't just have to be a force of destruction. She says she knows that Savika is probably right and that she probably owes it to Silco since she killed him, but she's scared to do that because she has something good going in her life again with Isha, and she doesn't want to mess it up like she has with everything else, whether it be intentionally or unintentionally. She believes she's fated to mess everything up. She says to Silco that if he really cares so much about this stupid revolution game, then speak up now or I guess you're really gone, and that there's no reason left to stay there anymore. And I think the reason she doesn't hear Silco's voice right now is because Jinx isn't actually conflicted right now. I think that she's content with just living out life as she is, with Isha forgetting about the outside world. And when she brings up having no reason to stay here anymore, it means that she wants to leave just this whole area entirely, both cities, and run away from it all with Isha. Because this is where all the problems and pain have started in her life. Which is also a parallel to this scene.
Powder, listen. We can just go. We'll leave and never come back.
Where would we go? No, she's not saying that.
It's true. We'll put this behind us. You'll never have to see him again, Powder.
But after that, Jinx goes back to her room and she finds out that Isha was taken to prison after the rally in Zaun that she didn't attend. Again, another situation where no matter what, something bad happened, and it happened in her eyes because of her. And as she's told this, she starts hearing voices again because she's conflicted again. She hears herself say, you know what you are, and then there's a line from Vi saying, damn it, Powder, and a continuous voice saying, Jinx, Jinx, Jinx. All because Isha was taken, and someone she cares about is in danger again because of her, because Isha looked up to her. All the people from the Undercity are being oppressed because of her. So Jinx goes to the prison to break Isha out, and in doing so, she also breaks out the rest of the Undercity, again doing a heroic act that makes everyone see her in the light of a hero, including Isha, but Jinx wasn't there to free everyone, she was only there to save Isha. And I just love when she saves Isha, you can see the happiness on her face as she was actually able to save her. But as she does this, Wolf Vander comes in and Jinx sacrifices herself to fight it, so that Isha can get away. And I like this line from her after Savika says, you really are a, and Jinx cuts her off saying, a big fat hero. She says it sarcastically because she still doesn't actually believe that. And she doesn't even care if she dies fighting Vander right here because she just had to save Isha from a horrible situation that she put her in her eyes. Which is again, like the main reason why she even wants to die in the beginning of the season. Because she is continuing to cause so much bad stuff to happen. She blames herself for everything. And after this, she goes to Vi because Vander is back, and the only person she thinks she can trust to help with this is Vi. And I just love the fact that Vander is the one who brings them both together again. And he's also another thing, including Isha, that's giving Jinx the will to continue living. And even though their lives weren't the best when Vander was around, they were still at a good point in their lives, probably the best point that it's been since the past like 7 or 8 years whenever Vander died from this point. Because ever since Vander died, their lives just continue to get worse. The world around them continued to get worse. And this ties nicely into the overarching problem being faced by both cities, being the magic. And episode 7 represents what could have been really good as well. If Jace and Victor never got too overambitious, if Vander never died, and if he and Silco settled their differences. And that's why I loved Vander being the one that allows for Jinx and Vi's relationships to start to regrow from a different point. And I love the moment right before they go into the tunnel to find Vander. Vi sees the mural made of Jinx and how the people see her in the Undercity. And as she looks back at Jinx, the facial expression expressions just tell you everything you need to know. Vi is internally proud, and Jinx just kind of brushes it off still. And as they walk through the cave, Vi says, "When will you just admit that this is just another fantasy? Or do you not want the kid to know how delusional you are?" And Jinx throws in Vi's face the fact that she joined the Enforcers, the same people who killed their parents. And Vi retorts back with, "Well, at least they never got to see the psycho their daughter turned into." And Jinx says, "Which one?" As she says, "Wake up, I'm a hero," bringing up what she's done while Vi was wasting her life away, coping with the pain the only way she knows how, by fighting, like I mentioned earlier. But Jinx doesn't even bring up busting people out of the prison because she actually believes she's a hero. She only says it purely as a way to hang it over Vi's head. And the way Vi responds is, "You wouldn't last 1 second without your little gadgets and tricks." Which I love, because one of the reasons she wound up becoming Jinx is because Powder as a kid couldn't do anything.
You know, Powder, what makes you different makes you strong. Always remember that, okay?
And as they both start fighting, Vi accidentally hurts Isha, and as Jinx comforts Isha, I love when Vi is looking. You can tell she's thinking back to the dynamic between her and Powder and how it used to be the same. And Vi asks why she even got her for this, since she doesn't think that Jinx actually needs her help right now. And Jinx perfectly says, "Last time Vander needed us, we tried it alone, and nothing was ever the same. So maybe this is like a do-over. Besides, he's your father too." And it just shows that even though they both have problems with each other, they still both love each other at the end of the day, and it shows that Jinx wants to try and start over with the relationship that ended, even if Vi won't love her unconditionally like beforehand. And I love how when they're reading Vander's note to Silco, as it talks about Vander's regrets for how his relationship with Silco went to shit, and Jinx says if he found this, everything might have been different, as Vi looks over at Jinx thinking about what could have been as well. And again, it's something that episode 7 shows off beautifully, and the way Vi gets Vander to come back to being calm is to stop fighting, which is just so fucking perfect for reasons that should be obvious if you watch the first season, as they all come in for one big hug, and this shit just hits so hard. And when they go to Victor's place to help Vander, they are forced to give up their weapons in order to be able to help him, which again is just so good thematically. But it's also ironic because the very thing that Victor is using to bring peace in his eyes and heal people is the thing that causes so much chaos, and the thing that destroyed Powder and Vi's childhood and got Vander killed and her family killed.
That which inspires us to our greatest good is also the cause of our greatest evil.
And Victor goes into Vander's head and sees the vision that he has for Vaughn, and he likes it, which is very important for the thematic ending of the show in the finale and for Jinx's character. And it also foreshadows a part of the finale when Victor says Powder's talent can be used for building things and not just destroying them, which I will expand upon both of those things later. Anyways, as Jinx gets ready for a fight with Ambessa's army, who is getting prepared to get Vander for their own use, she says to Isha that ever since she dropped in on her life, it's like Jinx has been wearing glasses, but she can't tell if things are blurry or clear, which I think represents the fact that Jinx doesn't know whether or not she can be different or more than a Jinx, and the clear part being whether or not she's in a good spot and doesn't need to change, which is great foreshadowing for her character arc, but again, we'll be getting to that later. But just after Jace injures Victor badly, and after this happens, we see the cog from Victor that he got from Jinx fall out of his hands, and as the shot ends, you can tell the colorful side is about to be facing upwards, foreshadowing what's about to happen to Isha and Jinx's mental state, as Ambessa's people and Vander, Vi, Jinx, and Caitlyn start a massive fight. And when everyone on Jinx's side is on the back foot, beaten down, Isha looks around and the parallel between her and Powder is completed. But let me explain. I've already mentioned the fact that the way Jinx and Isha meet comes as a direct parallel to the first episode of season 1, with Powder running away and also her being saved by Jinx in a similar way to how Powder was saved by Vi. I've also already mentioned that Isha's mouse bomb works when she helps out Jinx in one of the earlier fights. I've mentioned the fact that Isha looks up to and idolizes Jinx in the same way that Powder looked up to Vi. And now what this all leads up to is Isha taking the Hextech crystals, grabbing them out of the same powder, the little pouch that Powder had, putting them all into one weapon in an effort to save someone she cares about, but instead of sitting outside safely, like Powder, she's running in headfirst to sacrifice in order to save Jinx and the group. And she makes this gesture to Jinx right before doing it. And what this represents is what Isha saw when looking from afar. It represents what Jinx doesn't believe about herself and what Isha tries to get through to her. She does this because she was inspired to be a hero by Jinx. Isha is what Powder wanted to be, and she became that way through Jinx's influence, proving that even though this ended in a tragedy, not everything Jinx does is bad.
I had a different name back then. Powder. Stupid, right? I thought I was rid of her for good, but you kind of remind me of her.
But as the final shot sets, we see the cog drop on Jinx's side. We know exactly how Jinx takes this. She doesn't see what Isha just tried to get through to her at all. All she sees is once again someone she loves dead and not being able to save Vander, as she again blames herself and continues to believe that she's nothing but a Jinx. And as she sits in her cell, she sees Silco, which I like to think is a past conversation she probably had with him, or it could be interpreted that Jinx is talking to herself, in what she thinks is something Silco would say. He tells her that killing is a cycle, it started long before Vander and him, and it will continue long after the two of you, in reference to Jinx and Vi. She says she's done running in circles, and we get this line from Silco, which is just fucking perfect.
We build our own prisons, bars forged of oaths, codes, commitments, walls of self-doubt and accepted limitation. We inhabit these cells, these identities, and call them us.
She hears this, and then Vi tries to save her and have Jinx fight with them, telling her to use that explosive potential for good. But as Jinx locks Vi up, she tells her she doesn't have to worry about her anymore. She doesn't have to feel guilty about being happy. You deserve to be with her, talking about Caitlyn. There's no good version of me. She's breaking the cycle. And there's another important line we get from this as well that connects to Jinx's decision to change in the season finale, where she says, killing isn't mercy, and Silco says, there's still a spark of rebellion in that husk, showing that there's still a little bit of hope inside Jinx. But what does this all mean, and what does it all culminate into? Well, as Jinx is about to kill herself, and she's trying to end the cycle by walking away, the cycle of her continuing to be a Jinx, Echo is there trying to save her, and he tells her,
no matter what happened in the past, it's never too late to build something new. Someone worth building it for.
And what Jinx does is hold on to that last bit of hope and rebellion in her body, listening to what Vi and Victor said about using that explosive potential for good, letting in the thought that she can be a hero that she's been receiving for the whole season, and what Isha was trying to tell her, listening to Echo and letting go of the past in order to build something new, and instead of walking away from life entirely, the way she escapes her prison, quote unquote, is by making a new identity. And the color she has on her signify to me that this identity is a mix of Powder and Jinx, the very thing that she could not handle deciding between in season 1, until the end of season 1 where she accepts that she's only a Jinx. Mixing Powder and Jinx together can be a good thing. She can build something greater. And her hairstyle being like Vi's, her hoodie having shark teeth like the bazooka where she made her statement after she accepted her identity as Jinx, all this feels like a direct callback to the decision she made at the end of season 1, accepting that identity. But this time, she's again combining her two identities into something for good. And as she helps Zaun and Piltover fight against an even bigger threat in unity, like Silco and Vander wanted, doing something they never did before, and when Victor and Jace finally come together and save each other, which is a beautiful moment in and of itself for those two characters, Jinx tells Vi to walk away because she can't save him when Vi is looking over Vander, and the platform Vi is on is about to drop, and as Vi is about to die, she saves Vi's life by sacrificing herself, and breaking the cycle of her being nothing but a Jinx for the people she loves. Accepting that she can't save Vander, and embracing the last moment she has with him, and she saves Vi's life, as well as helping saving the whole world's life. This season was fucking amazing. I was going to make this video about both Vi and Jinx's character work this season, but this video is already long enough just talking about Jinx, so I just kept it to talking about my favorite character in this show. My only thing about Jinx this season is I don't know how I feel about whether she's alive or dead. I think the final scene kind of makes it clear that she's probably alive, and she takes that airship to, do whatever life has in store for her, but I also think that sacrifice hits really hard if she does die. I'm kind of conflicted about it. It doesn't really matter. I think her character arc was amazing. The character work with her this season was amazing, and it also was for every other prominent character. I do have a video script basically finished talking about Vi and Jinx in season 1 that will be coming out after this. Let me know if you want me to make a video about other characters this season, as the character work this season is overall just as good as it was in the first season, and I'm sure there will be some really bad critique videos that I will find to make a response video to in the future as well, given that I've already seen some brain dead criticism for this season.
So, Vander enters the tunnel. And it's like, well, wait, but I thought they were going into the tunnel to get to Vander. And then you're like, yeah, and then so you went in. You went in. But the thing is, it was boarded up. So you went in, he went out and boarded it back and then came back.
Because hot damn, you want to know what's a scam? Your fucking education.
And for someone that thinks this season was rushed, I'm sorry, but you did not pay attention. Maybe someone out there can make the argument that this show is rushed, but I've watched this show basically twice already now, or this season, and every single character arc, every single theme, all the stuff that was presented here has very proper build-up and execution and payoff. If you wish to support the channel, feel free to become a channel member for as little as $1 a month to get my videos early as well. I thank you all for watching, and yeah.